Got better.
That wasn't a voice.
Yes,
though.
that's
That
better.
Was, oof.
What's weird is it shows that you're muted, but you're
How
not.
about now?
Not yet.
Refresh.
Nothing.
It says that it was supposed to go live.
It just
Can't
popped up a notification on my phone that you've gone live. Just now, as soon as you said it.
All right.
Yep, and if you look into your bell, it didn't go red, but you're there. There we go.
All right.
And now you're live, and there's no one in chat except Ferren saying hiya.
Fantastic. So now people can go to youtube.com/BigDaddyLinks/live, and they'll see it. But they got to know to go there.
I still don't see it.
And it doesn't matter. We're already open for business. So there you go. All right. So we have already started the stream and stopped the stream and started the stream
Rocco,
again.
I have you on the second link that's posted in the chat, and that's live.
Thank you, Dan. So we're just going to start this out because there's no way to go back and fix it. So this is Biddle for Saturday, March 28th, 2020. How's everybody doing?
Yeah, pretty good.
All right.
Excellent. We're doing just fine.
Good.
Right.
Wow.
Hanging.
We're actually live streaming. It's fantastic. Now,
there it goes. Okay.
I will correct the YouTube chat. That is not the correct YouTube chat in the window. I will do that behind the scenes once everybody starts talking, and I can do that. But we are trying out Linux Mint Debian Edition, and this is the backup plan, I would say, for Linux Mint in case something happened to the Ubuntu base. So I know that there's a lot of people that tried it. There's a lot of chatter in Telegram about it. So let me start with you, Eric. What do you think about Linux Mint Debian Edition?
Well, it's Mint on Debian. How do you like that?
It's true.
It's true. Go ahead and argue that point. I dare you.
Right?
It's so I had a very interesting experience. There's some things that Mint does that kind of baffle me for some reason. Apt, when you call to that command on the command line, actually calls to aptitude instead of apt, which I don't understand why it does that, and it's really frustrating because I'm used to using apt, not aptitude. So that it's a dumb thing, right? The other thing that was really annoying, you can't add PPAs at all. You can't even work around it anymore, which is like, I get that snaps and flatpaks and app images exist, but come on, you need some PPAs. So it led me to, so what I was interested in last week was I wanted to try Debian. And so that was the interesting part. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go try Debian testing and just see how that is. So I installed that and played around with it a little bit, and it's okay. Then I said, well, let me try SID. So I switched to SID, used that for a little bit, and it was fine. But I was really happy that I was using Cinnamon again. So I'm like, well, Fedora 32 beta just came out. I'll go try the spin for Cinnamon. So I ended up on Cinnamon Fedora. So it was a very weird, sort of disconnected set of 4 different distros, essentially, after having tried Mint. And yeah, I mean, it's Mint on Debian. That's why I said that, because it's like it really wasn't a huge difference between running it off of the main distribution base, the main Ubuntu base, and the same things that bothered me about Mint on there bothered me on Debian, and the same things I love about Mint I loved on there. So I'm not sure what else to say besides that, and I hope that's not like a cop-out, but
It's a cop-out. It's a total cop-out. No, it isn't.
Okay, fine. I'll just leave them. I'm sorry.
No. I looked at it going into it as, would I notice the difference between regular Linux Mint and Linux Mint Debian Edition? And, I did have issues, and I have to say that this has nothing to do with Linux Mint Debian or Linux Mint itself, but it's 2020. Can we please get an installer that can actually format drives? And when you tell it to, I want to format this drive, have it install it to that drive and actually make the install. So I got an error a couple times on installing it. It didn't install the grub menu for the first time, and it failed on the second time. I ended up going into gparted, partitioning the drive beforehand, then going in and doing the install, and it worked perfectly. I boot into the desktop, and for all intents and purposes, I did not try to add PPAs. I did not, go out of my way to find things that were wrong with it. I couldn't really tell the difference between Linux Mint and Linux Mint Debian Edition, which is a plus, which is a good thing for what they're trying to do. So I don't have anything bad to say about it. I do, besides the installer going the first time, I had one crash, and that was when I tried to open the menu, drag one of the applications to the panel for a shortcut. I couldn't remember if I could do that in Cinnamon or not. So I dragged it to the panel, and the whole desktop froze hard. There was nothing I could do about it except hit the power button. Other than that, I didn't have no problems.
One other cool thing I noticed was I have NVIDIA in this system, and when I booted, it actually compiled NVIDIA as part of the boot up process. So the DKMS module, kernel module,
Yep.
it actually built that as part of the boot up process, which I thought was a little interesting, but it all worked really well. Yeah, that's just it. Technically, I had no issues besides my own sort of preconceived notions of, I don't like how their apt works, or aptitude, I guess. And, I just use PPAs because I'm used to Ubuntu, and I know that's not a Debian thing. So,
yep. All right, PZ, sir.
Hi, everybody. Well, first, I've got a quick first question for Eric. When you run the apt command, how do you know it's using aptitude in the background? Because I get no indication it's doing that.
try using one of the apt-only commands. So I use apt search --names -only all the time, because when I search for something, I'm really specifically looking for, I don't want every possible match to something. And so if you enter that, it'll tell you, doesn't understand, and then aptitude version, blah, blah, blah. And I was actually chatting back and forth in the forum with someone about, like, why was it doing that? And we figured out it's because it's actually linked. You can run the regular apt, but you have to be explicit in the path to it. The user bin apt is the right apt, or the real apt, I guess.
All right, because I guess I'm just a basic command line user, and everything I run just works. So if I want to search for a piece of software, I'll go to the Software Center or Synaptic or something. I don't think I've ever searched with apt, which is quite unusual. So apart from that quick question, I've really enjoyed my experience with Linux Mint Debian. It was the first time I think I've ever had a Debian live installer fire up and work out, hey, look, this guy's got 3 screens. There you go.
Wow.
They might not be in the right order, but because I think if I remember rightly, because I did it, last Sunday morning on my laptop, and then I did it the very first thing afterwards on my main machine. It's got the NVIDIA installer option right at the beginning, isn't it, on the live USB?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that helped a lot. Everything installed, everything I do works fine. I tend not to use PPAs now, but is it refusing PPAs because they've sort of taken it the one step further? And it's Debian anyway, and Debian don't like PPAs, but don't Mint do something strange with their PPAs as well?
It's not that. It's that technically you shouldn't put PPAs on Debian because, well, hang on. What is a PPA? A PPA is just a repository with software in it.
Yeah.
But it's built on an Ubuntu machine using the libraries and build tools that are in Ubuntu. And so if you take a binary that's been built on an Ubuntu system and try and put it on a Debian system, that will likely fail. It might work.
Right.
It depends on things like libc and other libraries lining up. And if they happen to be a relatively modern release of Debian and a relatively modern release of Ubuntu, it might actually magically work, but it might not. And so general recommendation is don't do it, because it might not work, and also it might catastrophically break the packages that you have on your Debian system. So it's best to just not do it.
Just not do it and find a Flatpak or Snap that works with it better.
Or,
yeah.
well, so a PPA is just a repository, just like Google have a repository for Chrome, and someone else has a repository for whatever their piece of software is. They're just repositories. It's just a large collection of them in one place.
Yeah.
So Debian still supports external repositories, just not specifically PPAs.
Via the PPA method of putting them in there, yeah. So, and the other thing that just worked for me, which was quite confusing, was I've been suffering very, very small micro stutters when I play Euro Trucks. And it's only a very, very minor thing. And Linux Mint Debian 4 didn't suffer it. And I don't know what they're doing different to what MX do, but I went through a whole 2 or 3 or 4 day session with guys on the MX forums trying various different things to get rid of those micro stutters, and I can't get rid of them. Linux Mint Debian, straight out of the box, it works. It was ridiculous. So I had a very, very good experience on the first couple of hours of setting it all up and then using it, and then work came along. I had my last week at work before my holiday, so I haven't had a chance to test it further than that. But I even went so far as to say, wow, if this experience continues to be so good, it may replace MX purely because I can't get rid of the micro stuttering on MX, and I do play my Euro Trucks a lot. So far, very, very good experience I'm having with Mint. And like everybody else, it feels like you're at home. The only thing that I think is a bit strange now is people still saying, and it may be true, it may not, but what if Ubuntu goes down? Let's have a fallback. That was 12 years ago. Is that really the case now? Or is it now just a distro in its own right that they maintain because they've got a lot of followers on it?
I think it's fair to say, and bear in mind, take everything I say with a pinch of salt, because I work for Canonical on Ubuntu. But I think the perspective is, what if Canonical did something with Ubuntu, or the Ubuntu project did something with Ubuntu that meant making Mint was harder? It doesn't necessarily have to be Canonical going out of business. It doesn't necessarily have to be Ubuntu not existing anymore, although those would probably catastrophically break Mint. The Ubuntu edition, the Ubuntu-based edition. I think it's more, what if Canonical or Ubuntu did something which serves Ubuntu well and serves Ubuntu users well, but didn't serve Mint's users well? Let's say, for example, and this is a stupid example, but I'm giving you, like, if Canonical made a fundamental change and switched from systemd to Upstart, right? Or some other really super fundamental infrastructure thing that really caused havoc for Mint, they might say, okay, we need to execute plan Delta and switch to Debian. I don't think it's just the if Canonical goes away argument. I think it's
so do you still think that is a focus that's in the back of their mind?
I don't know. I never speak to anyone who works on the Mint project. I've spoken to Clem maybe 3 times in the last year, and nothing about this. So you have to ask Mint.
Leo, do you have anything on that?
Yeah, it is still a focus for them. I mean, the LMDE4 Debbie release blog post that they put out there, he states its goal is to ensure Linux Mint would be able to continue to deliver the same user experience, and how much work would be involved if Ubuntu was ever to disappear. LMDE is also one of our development targets to guarantee the software we develop is compatible outside of Ubuntu. So they're just making sure Cinnamon works everywhere, but LMDE is still that fallback, just in case.
Right, okay, cool.
Well, for those that don't know, Leo is part of Mintcast podcast.
Yeah.
So he is here to help us talk about Linux Mint.
With
he also does
audio.
But he also does Ubuntu Circles. So
yep.
Yeah, Full Circle Magazine. Yeah, I'm only a little far behind on that.
I listen to both.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
All right. So moving forward, Bill, are you back yet?
I think he
No,
wanted
we
to be
thought-
skipped. PG.
Oh, okay, yeah, fine. All right, then. So Linux Mint Debian Edition Spider.
Hey, Zeb.
Hello
So,
there. Good to see you. Hope you're well.
Enjoying my beer here.
So, how have you found Linux Mint Debian?
So, I changed my name because everyone knows me as Mint Spider because for many, many years I used Linux Mint from version 6 to 16 before I found something better. And I had actually tried Debian Edition quite a few years back, on and off, enjoyed it. But I'm going to tell you, I love LMDE4. I've got it installed on an older laptop. It's it's over a decade old, but still installed no problem. I've had no problems with it. It runs smooth. I like the cinnamon. Flat packs installed straight from the software center. I like it. I really enjoy it.
Cool.
No
Excellent.
problems whatsoever.
Wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. Aris.
Yes, I tried Linux Mint Debian Edition, and I tried the NVIDIA option when you live boot it, and I think it defaulted me to 340, but I used 390 on Ubuntu, and it seemed like it worked. And then I installed it, and I got stuck. I have a laptop and a external monitor. It had me on the laptop monitor with, I think, 1000 by 720 resolution, I think, which my monitor on my computer is like a little bit less than HD on the laptop, and then the external monitor wasn't recognized. So I'm not sure if it was because I selected the NVIDIA option when I installed it, or it just did that by as an error. But I haven't been able to test it besides that.
Just to jump in here real quick, Leo, I don't think we have anybody here from the Linux Mint team. So if you want to kind of play that role, you're more than welcome to jump in if you have answers to these guys' problems or
Cool.
questions.
Yeah, definitely will. And that goes for, I would assume, Joe. And is Tony here? I think Tony might be here.
Yeah, I saw him a few minutes ago.
There he is.
Yeah,
There's Joe.
I'm here.
He's
Cool.
off
All
the
right.
screen right now. So we have 32 members, and of course, we still need to bombard Zoom with requests for them to update the Linux version of Zoom so that it can handle more than 25 participants on the main screen. So I can only get 25 on the screen. When we get to those people who are on the other screen, I'll switch to it. But yeah. All right, continue on.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's unusual that you had problems with that NVIDIA. It'd be good if somebody who knew how to do it to deep dive and see what the default NVIDIA install would be, or have they managed to package the latest? But again, this is something that I find really quite clever and something that we just take for granted. It will work on a 2009 Linux machine. It will work on a 2019 or a 2009 machine. It will work on a 2019 machine. So how does that installer know that you've got an older NVIDIA driver that needs the older drivers or the latest and greatest because you've got a 2060 or whatever? I just find that depth of knowledge, and why I always say that I'm just a user, because I didn't even know that it was using the different version of apps. That's how basic my use is. So I find that side of it really, really astonishing, and I was impressed with it.
Yeah. Well, and this is where distros come in and play their part in doing different things, and I'm sure they have good reasons for making those decisions. I just, it's one of those things that I happen to notice. I doubt anyone else would. So, oh well. All right,
I think
Joe.
Linux Mint was supposed to be boring, right?
Well, no, it's supposed to be used by people, and like Zeb said, you use the software manager. I never use a graphical software manager because they make me want to throw my computer out of the window. So
yeah, I'm the same way. I'll run a Flatpak command every single time.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, all right. Well, I'm so glad to finally get to see you guys because I've been listening for such a long time. And another person from the Mintcast is Joe. So Joe, welcome.
Hey.
How are you? Did you want to say anything? I mean,
Well, I did.
gee, have you tried it?
No. Mintcast did Debian Edition show. I think it was last year, right, Leo?
Yeah. As far as I know, something like that.
Right.
Sounds about
I
right.
did try to install it at that time, but I tried to install it on my 7130, which is a little tablet, and I didn't have any luck, so I can't really, give you a fair and balanced opinion on Linux Mint Debian Edition. But even if I had gotten it to work, I really don't think it would ever be my fallback, because I like Linux Mint and I am starting to like Fedora, but I don't think I would go back to a Debian Edition.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fair fair assessment. It's nice to know that it's there, and I think that serves that purpose for them, and I'm sure they do have some fans of it. But yeah, Debian, like I said last week, I've always thought of it as an excellent server distribution, and I can't ever remember a time where I thought I wanted it on my desktop.
Exactly.
Yeah, that really kind of makes me wonder, is there anybody in here outside of LMDE testing? Does anybody actually run Debian? Like Debian?
Dan, Penguin. Looks like a couple people.
I do.
John Anderson does.
I have
Okay.
for a couple of years.
Asnix.
Now,
Yeah.
do you guys go as far as like Franken Debianing these things, or it's just like straight Debian?
Straight Debian. Stable.
Wow. Okay.
Do you not have so the ESR Firefox? That's another thing I forgot to mention. That's kind of like there's a way around it. You just add the unstable repo and you can install it from there.
Yeah.
But
I download Firefox directly from Mozilla and just run it, install it in the app directory and run it that way.
And they're going to be doing
the trouble is in LMDE, if you try and do that, it complains because it needs an updated version of libc6. And when you try and update that, it complains because you need an updated version of locales.
Mm.
Yes, I did actually manage to break LMDE.
Good job. Congratulations.
Man after my own
You try
heart.
hard enough.
That's right.
Try hard enough and you can break Debian.
something.
So one last point of note, Joe, I have great respect for you miking up on the couch. That's awesome.
This is my comfy chair. This is my recliner.
Okay. Good job. Good job. I like it. All right. Penguin, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Enjoying
have
my
for
new
us?
computer. So
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, I did actually get to try LMDE. I did not actually install the new computer, but I've been testing it out since I did my video on it about a week and a half ago. So I've been enjoying it. I did not notice that it used aptitude until now, but then again, I don't do apt specific commands. But did you actually try to just uninstall aptitude to disable that?
I was afraid it was going to break something else, like maybe because they have that map that it was actually something that's going to get called in a certain way. And
maybe.
Yeah.
I would try to just pull it, but I'll go ahead and pull it. Seems how it's not on an important computer. I'll figure it out and see if that fixes it.
Okay.
But also, Eric, there is a way to add PPAs to Linux Mint if you so dare. But you have to go in to the sources, sources.d, add a file, or to the main sources list, and add the Ubuntu link to it. And then you have to go and add the key server manually.
Gotcha.
I did it on Debian SID all the time, and it's the same procedure, but it's not recommended, like Alan said.
I kind of get
You
to
were
the
already on SID.
Yeah.
But I kind of I always feel like if I push at the distro level, if I start making too many of those foundational changes, like yanking out aptitude or adding PPAs when they very clearly don't want me to, I wonder, like, this is probably not a great idea. So.
No, it's not a great idea to do it because LMDE is stable, and the reason why they suggest that you don't add PPAs is because Ubuntu is based off of Debian SID. So they're pulling their packages from that unstable branch and then building a stable branch out of it, and that is why a lot of times they break is because you're getting newer versions of libraries, or it depends on something that's newer version, and then it breaks everything. I've done that many times on Debian Stable, trying to get things to work, and my advice on a Debian Stable is don't do it. You can get away on Debian SID, but
other than that, I'd say don't do it. But I have actually have had zero problems with it. I get everything I need to on it. The only thing is, it did not want to recognize one of my Wi-Fi codes out of the box. I had to literally wire it into my router and update the kernel. And the funny thing is, this laptop's 12 years old. I don't know why. I don't know why it didn't have that driver on the kernel, but I had to go and download the Liquix kernel. That's why I knew you could install Liquix on it, because it was a pain. But other than that, I had no problems.
All right.
Excellent.
Thanks, Penguin. Tony, good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening. I'm fine, and you?
I'm doing well. What do you think of LMDE?
Yeah, pretty good. When I tried to install it, one of the problems I come up against, I don't know if anybody else did, but it was in a foreign language, as in not in a version of English. And
interesting.
I had to go in and change the language to English before I could do the install, but it wasn't too difficult. I was surprised that it came up like that, but it. Penguin,
Did you actually grab the US image? Because it's easy to go and grab the foreign images.
I'm not sure which one I got, actually, to be honest.
That'll teach you to live in Spain, Tony.
But aren't the ISOs all the same, and they just have language? I mean,
I
it just
thought they were.
Yeah, it just checks your
that's what I
locale.
would have thought.
I would think
Maybe
so.
I don't know, but some of them are region specific on that site. So at least I noticed, because I accidentally grabbed one that was in Japanese once a long time ago.
No, this wasn't a language that was too difficult to work out. It could have been Italian or something like that. I'm not sure. But anyway, I changed it to English and then done the install, and it was fine. The install is a little bit different to the normal Linux Mint, but it's good, and it was easy enough to get it to install. The only other thing I found during trying to do the install was that it automatically selected the pen drive. If you never noticed that, you would install it or try to install it over the actual distro that was on the pen drive rather than the actual drive on the machine. But as long as you noticed it, which did, fortunately, I could change it for the install to the main drive and also for Grub to the main drive, because that was by default, both were selected on the pen drive, which I thought was a bit weird.
Yeah, it won't
but
work
once
very
it was
well either.
installed, no. But once it was installed, it worked really well. It's smooth. I've used Linux Mint for quite a long time, sometime in the past. I actually think this runs better. Once you got it installed, it didn't put a foot wrong. The only other problem I had with it was the same problem I had with a lot of distros. I could not get the scanner to work. But the printer worked.
No.
Had I got the scanner to work, as I've said before, with other distros, I might well have still been on it. But at the moment, I'm still on Ubuntu 19.10 because it works. I tried 20.04 and that doesn't. But it's still in testing, so, I mean, there's time for that to get sorted yet. But as far as LMDE goes, I really like it. It's a very good distro.
All right. Good deal, Tony. I know you try a lot of them, so yeah, your viewpoint's helpful.
Okay, good.
Thanks. Mr. Pope, good evening, sir. How are you?
Hello. Very good, thank you.
Did you get a chance to try LMDE?
I'm installing it right now.
All right, cool. Never too late.
In a VM. Yeah, and I thought I'd have a poke around. So I can't give any judgment on anything. But the thing that Eric mentioned about apt being a link to aptitude, it's actually a bit more complex and interesting than that. It's actually a Python script when you run apt on Linux Mint, and it's a Python script that was added to Mint in 1.1 ELISA, which is 2008. So it's been there forever. And it decides which of the apt commands get ferried off to other places. So the reason The reason it's confusing is because apt has existed on Mint for like 10 plus years, but it's not apt. It's their script called apt.
I noticed that too.
Linux Mint. That's the confusion.
Yeah, I noticed that
but
as
yeah,
well.
it does call out to
Weird.
apt-get or aptitude. Yeah.
But not apt.
I think for some stuff it does actually.
No, but it predates apt. It came before apt, the one that's in Debian, I think. I may be wrong on that, but yeah, I just thought that was interesting. But I haven't actually tested it, so I can't really comment any further.
Yeah,
I think you're right about that timeline.
I did a which apt, and it showed me which one it's pointed to, and it's a Python script, and I did a quick glance through it, and it does look like it does call apt, the actual apt for some stuff possibly. So it's really confusing.
Yeah, I think that's new. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we are okay. So we have about 20 minutes left in the hour, and there's no way that we're going to get through everybody. So we're gonna try to go through, and I don't want anybody to cut the review short, but I do want to try to get as many people in as we can. So Dan Kelly, how are you, sir?
I'm fine. If you want to pass on me, you can pass, or I can go ahead.
Go right ahead, Dan. Go right ahead. I don't want to take away time from people. I just want to make sure that
I don't either, really.
So no, go ahead, Dan. Talk to us. Baby.
Okay. Being somebody that's used Debian Buster since it actually came out, you can immediately tell that underneath this distro, there's a lot of Debian under there. I mean, it works in many ways very similar. What you really get here, though, is you get an installer that helps you go along and get all your stuff installed without using the net installer. And people that have used the Debian net installer really know what I'm talking about, because you have to make a stick with the firmware on it, and then it asks you for the firmware stick, and you got to stick it in your machine. And then when you're installing Debian, you got to go in and run commands, install your codecs, your DVD codecs, and stuff like that. Linux Mint makes it really easy with this stuff by far. I didn't come across the part where you put in your an NVIDIA drivers, so I had to kind of do it the hard way and the Debian way, and I was able to do that. I changed the theme.
The NVIDIA drivers were installed for me when I booted in.
Mine were not. We're on the default, whatever it comes default with. That's not NVIDIA.
Okay.
When you boot, though, did you pick the NVIDIA option, Rocco?
Honestly, I don't remember.
You probably did, because when you first boot up, you can go ordinary LMDE or ordinary LMDE with NVIDIA. So if you didn't pick that option, Dan, that's why it didn't do it.
Like I said, I probably overlooked it. It gave me drivers 4.18, where most of the other distros give me 440. And that's to be expected because it comes with the same kernel that Debian Buster comes with, 4.19. You'll find that kernel probably won't work on modern hardware that just came out in the last year.
Works perfectly on my kit, Dan, and I'm running a Threadripper on a 2080 Ti.
How old is it?
9 months.
Okay, yours might
brand
be
spanking new machine. That's because I chose NVIDIA on the installer, and that gave me 435.
I think one of the things I would have run into if I was on my 5700 XT, it probably would not have booted. And I think that's just because of an older version of Mesa and an older version of the kernel. So 4.19 would have given me trouble.
Well, I did run across a read on some of this, and the Ryzen 9s that's not baked into this kernel for them processors. They'll run, but they won't have the best code for it. I did run into some problems on Zeb. You're right about the gaming. The gaming is fantastic on this distro. I had no truck stutters with my trucking games. They run smooth as glass. I don't know what they put into it to make it do that, but I'm experiencing the same thing. I did run into a problem when everything decided to update Thunderbird to Thunderbird 68.6. Now, it finally got around to all my distros, including Debian. The problem I had with it was when you open your email and you go to click on a link to open your browser to go somewhere, it would not do it. All my other distros, including Debian, would. And I spent a lot of time goofing around with this yesterday. I actually uninstalled Thunderbird. I had a deb package of version 57. I installed that and that worked, believe it or not. And I went back and forth. And finally, I went into the source lists and I actually removed the source list that they supplied from Linux Mint and put the Debian source list in, and then reinstalled Thunderbird that way. After that, the links work. So I don't know what's going on, whether they have a bad package or something that they're shipping out from Linux Mint or somewhere, but the package I got from the source list from Debian, that one worked. Other than that, absolutely love it. It comes with the latest version of Cinnamon 4.4.8. Good stuff. And it's a winner for me. If they, I had one other issue, the audio too. When you get the chime when you first starts up, and you get the welcome box that chimes when it does that, mine just is all broke up. And anytime you open a fresh audio stream, you get a slight thud in the speakers. And that's the only other issues I've had. Other than that, it's a very nice piece of work. And with that said, next person.
Very nice, Dan. Thank you. TechMav, welcome to Biddle.
Well, thank you. Unfortunately, I'm actually just now installing it, so that's pass on my review.
That is not a problem at all, dude.
Okay then, Barbara.
Okay, I downloaded it, but I haven't installed it yet. So you can go to the next person, please.
Lovely. Well, welcome, Dan. I don't think I've seen you here before, but then I might be a bit blind. So welcome to Biddle. And did you try MDE?
Thank you. No, I have not. I am not really a distro hopper, so I'm just in for a listener.
Yeah, no, that's
perfect,
fine.
dude.
So
I love
that works well. That works
That's
well.
fine. One of these days, we'll try one that interests, that you can't resist. It'll happen.
I'm a Manjaro guy, so.
Okay, well, we'll probably get to that sooner than later.
Which DE, Dan?
I'm using KDE.
Very nice. Very
Yeah,
nice.
their plasma is their plasma is pretty fantastic, no doubt.
Yep.
All right, Steve. Hello, sir.
Hello.
How are you?
Okay, I guess. But I guess for those that saw Monday, I tried to do a live stream with it. Started out, Rocco, you had nothing going on the way I did. I tell you, that was fun. But I think a lot of issues are going on with YouTube with all this stuff going on. Anyway, so the week I ran it a little bit. It's nice. As far as the app, I mean, I installed. When you went into Software Manager and I wanted to install OBS, it comes out with the Flatpak. And every time I try to use OBS Flatpak and set up a setting, it would crash. So I was chatting with Vince and says, he's like, dummy, why don't you just, do apt install OBS Studio? And that's what I did. No aptitude in that. Installed a little bit of an older version of OBS, but it worked fine. It looks nice. I mean, I don't, there was that transparent panel theming that you can do, or an extension that you can add to it that GNOME used to have. They took away with the last update. It was nice. I mean, I had to do it my way. I don't particularly like Linux Mint icons and that, so I changed that up. But I don't know. I don't think I would make it my everyday distro.
Well, a shout out to Steve's very own there, because I was on his stream that he was doing, and I saw the transparency he had, and I haven't run Cinnamon in a while, so I was like thinking, how did he get that transparency there? And he talked about an extension that adds it, and I added it, and it's perfect.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, so
it's a real nice touch.
Yeah, Cinnamon really is. It deserves more respect, I think, than it gets. You can do a lot with it. As it comes, it's obviously meant to be very familiar for people.
I do have
but
a question about the settings, though. If anybody knows, in the settings, you used to be able to switch the close, minimize buttons. You used to be able to put them on either side in the settings, and either I'm completely missing it, or they took that feature out since the last time I tried Cinnamon, or.
But so what do you mean? Put them on either side?
So you
I think you might be missing it.
Okay.
It's if you go to system settings, you'll hit Windows, and then there is a buttons layout: traditional style right and Mac style left. That's the first option that comes up.
Right, but there used to be a section where you could physically say, I want the close button on the left, I want the minimize on the right. There was like a whole section of, it wasn't just a either left or right. It was, you had all these
Did you
buttons.
used to be able to drag and drop it type thing, or was
No,
it a drop down
was
menu?
what it was is the first option was like say the close button, and you could say left, middle, I think, and right, and you just did a drop down menu on each different button, and it's not there anymore. I don't know what happened to it.
I think I know what you're talking about, Rocco. I think they took that out several versions of Cinnamon ago.
Okay,
it's possible. Yeah. Weird.
I thought it was weird. Okay, continue on.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
Leo. You are up. Obviously, you are very much a Mint user.
Yeah.
Did you have any thoughts on this release of LMD?
I mean, to be honest with you, pretty much exactly your experience. It's Mint. It feels like Mint. I'm a Flatpak user through and through. So as far as software goes, I ran OBS with it, Audacity with it, Mumble with it. The only issue I had with it was Mumble. For some reason, I cannot do a record in Mumble. Like if I just get the regular version that's in the repository, it'll work just fine. But if I do it in the Flatpak, for some reason, you'll tell it to store all your stuff somewhere. You click on record, and it's like, all right, I'm doing it. And then you go to the file.
I just made a video on that for you. If you, not to self-promote, but funny enough, Mumble and a couple other apps don't have any file permissions by default in Flatpak.
That's what I figured it was. It just didn't have
yeah.
right in my home folder or whatever the deal was. Yeah.
There's a new project that just came out called Flat Seal, and it has a UI for managing Flatpak permissions. You could always set it on the command line with an override, but Flat Seal makes it really easy to just use it and see like what permissions it has, and then you can choose whether it's home folder permissions or system-wide permissions, and it's pretty nice. So
that'll fix all of the issues that I run into. It's got to be. It'll be amazing if it's a Flatpak. Is that a Flatpak?
Yeah, it's a Flatpak, of course.
Oh, that's awesome, right? That's totally recursive now. That's great. So that was really the only other issue that I ran into. I mean, like while I'm being bored, while I'm waiting for stuff, I've just got a red alert game going on in the background here. So I don't know how well gaming actually works as far as the more graphically intensive games, ones that'll really tax your graphics card or something like that. But I've got OpenRA going over here, and it's running okay. And the machine that I've got it on is not high powered in the least. It's like this little $200 HP stream that I had gotten as I was fixing someone's laptop. They were like, well, just keep it. I'm like,
I thought you gave that
why
to your
did you even
daughter.
have me fix it? What?
I thought you gave that to your kid.
Well, I mean, she never used it. So it's mine again.
Yeah.
It became mine again.
I was hoping to hear how Steam works.
So I don't think,
Proton.
to be honest with you, I just don't think this laptop could handle any game that you would run through Proton, anything that would actually require DirectX or any kind of Vulkan extension or anything. So I didn't even bother trying it. And the machine that I would try that on is my desktop. And as someone said earlier, just having some general issues with it. 4.19 would not. I really doubt that the video card that I've got would actually boot on that kernel. It wouldn't boot on 5.0, I think it was. It just would not boot. And 5.3, it would boot, but you'd get this crazy cursor lag. And it was only on the cursor. It wasn't on anything else. And then once you hit 5.4, it started being amazing. And then 5.5 was really where the rubber met the pavement on that one. So I didn't even bother trying it on the desktop. But if there's some way that I can get a newer kernel on it and install it, then I might try that. 5.4 is in the repository. but I don't know how in the world I would actually get it to boot to that during the install.
Leo, like I said, you can install the Liquix kernel on it.
Okay. So how high can you get on that? Is that just like 5.6
It's
or
currently
5.5?
on 5.5. It's about to go 5.6 in the next couple weeks.
And so you can do that like before it boots into the live mode?
Oh no. You have to
Okay.
install it first.
Yeah. So if I could
able
get it
to.
to install with 4.19, I think that's the only issue. But I didn't even try. So I don't know that it's impossible. It's just that 5.0 gave me a bunch of trouble, so I didn't even bother with
No,
4.19.
I'm not sure. With the Debian edition, you should be able to still force the generic drivers for it to be able to load and install and boot, and then go back in afterwards and fix your NVIDIA driver issues.
So I might give that a shot just to see how gaming works on it. But to be honest, I haven't wanted to get off of Mint 19.3 because the gaming is so good. So I don't even bother. But that might be something I try out. As far as everything else goes, I mean, it's Mint, it's Debian, it's those two things smashed together, and it seems like everything is working fine.
Yeah, I would say their goal of having Mint on a Debian base is, I mean, that's realized very well, right? I mean, that is exactly what they set out to do, and that's what they've done. So, I mean, the desktop experience is exactly the same.
But it's been like it's been like that since LMDE 2 when I first jumped on it way back when. It's always been a very nice distro to use.
It's interesting that, Leo, you asked, and I've heard other people refer to this as well, or make note, call out that like how many people actually use it. It's there, they put it out, but is it actually, if you're a Mint user, would you choose that over the Ubuntu base? I mean, we can all agree that it certainly looks and feels like Mint in every in every meaningful way. So
there's a lot of users out there because the Linux Mint Debian forums are very busy.
Yeah, I think it's just those diehard Debian guys, the people that just really enjoy Debian.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with Debian. It's it runs really, really well.
Well, like Dan had said, I mean, it does all the heavy lifting. So if you're running just Debian, you're getting all free software. If you want the non-free, you have to go out and explicitly set it up that way and then install everything.
Yeah.
Whereas it's Debian, but with everything that Mint. I mean, if you think back to Mint's history, the roots of Mint was it was not easy to install that stuff on Ubuntu back in the day, right? Wasn't that like one of the main reasons
Codecs.
that Mint? Yes, codecs, and there were good reasons for that. It's not like Ubuntu was like, no, you can't do that. It's just they were shipping free software, and Mint made that really easy to do. So they continue to do that now.
Yeah. So the only downside that I had run into during Debian was I think the same thing as Rocco was running into, which was during the install. It just decided, nah, I'm not gonna. it was gonna try and install the partitions on my disk. And I chalked it up to this little laptop has like a memory card instead of a standard SATA drive or something like that. So that's what I chalked it up to. I was like, oh, okay, fine. I'll go manually make the partition. So when you hit edit, gparted comes up, so it's pretty familiar. But so I created me a root, I created me some swap, and it seemed to work fine after that. But that was just annoying. And as coming from a Linux Mint background, you kind of expect it to be easy. You kind of expect that would work, and it did not. So that was a bit frustrating for me overall. But other than that, once you got it installed, I haven't had a single hiccup on it, and I've been on it for about a week now, and just installing random flat packs and installing random packages. And I haven't seen it crash once yet, but there's always that yet that I'm waiting for. So it may or may not happen, but so far so good.
All right. Well, we'll look for some updates maybe on the Mintcast, and
I plan on it.
Okay, sounds good. All right, Dan. Quick unmute.
Yes. Good evening. Yes.
Good evening.
Move from the keyboard to the mouse. Anyway, I did install LMDE, and I have to blame Mr. Martin Wimpress for something. I installed it using QuickEmu, and that was good fun. And I had so much fun with that. I also watched some of his other videos this week, and I noticed his love for fish. So I kind of did another challenge, and been switching things over to using Fish for my shell, and yeah, been having good fun. Did some theming on LMDE, and that went just fine. No problems there. Broke away from the green minty look to a nice blue look. They give you lots of options there, so it's really great. You don't have to go mess with a whole bunch of stuff. You just click, and there it is, and it all looks good. No problems so far. I mean, there was a few things I noticed that don't seem to come included with LMDE, but everything's in the Debian repository, so you just install and away you go. I noticed that Git is actually not installed, which is a little weird, but not completely unusual, I guess. So I installed that, and life goes on.
I don't think Git is installed on regular Linux Mint either.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
Or
So
Ubuntu.
I'm sure they're staying within the regular ecosystem of Mint, and I'm just not a Mint user on a regular basis. So I just call it out because that's what I noticed.
Git is in my Linux Mint, and I don't think I explicitly installed it. So, I'm not sure.
It was just something I noticed because, there was something I wanted to install, and Git was the way. So, anyway, nothing to complain about. Everything works pretty well. Mr. Starbuck, how are you this evening? Oh, you're muted, but other than that.
Other than being muted, I'm doing good. I've got the laptop sitting beside me here with the Linux Mint Debian on it, and I'm tinkering with it now, just trying to get my same software I'm using on my desktop, Mint, regular Mint there, Mint Cinnamon, up and running on this one. Everything seems to be working fine for what I use. I've had no issues installing it, no issues running it on a Intel-based NVIDIA laptop. Everything's running smooth.
Cool. Good stuff. Paul, how are you this evening?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Um,
Yeah, I got this new laptop here. Well, it's not new, it's old, but got it from my Uncle Ben, who I put in a home. He had dropped it and broke it all. I had to glue it back together with some epoxies, but I got it working, and it runs this Linux Mint just absolutely perfect. No issues at all. It's yeah, it's a really nice
know
system.
what voodoo you're using to put picture in picture like that.
Paul always
Susie.
comes up with good stuff.
Open source.
All right, thank you, Paul. Daniel, how are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good.
What has been your experience with LMDE?
I'll be quick because I had some install issues trying to get it installed on the laptop that I have because my laptop has hybrid graphics. So that it's acting kind of weird. I had to go with the I couldn't do the NVIDIA one. I couldn't do the regular one when I did, when it comes up with the installer, when it boots. I had to do the one, it's the second option down, which is the compatibility mode. That was the only one that would actually boot in and let me boot it so that I could install it. And it's running, but it stutters and stalls, and I haven't had any other OSs really stutter and stall on this. So it's either the fact that it has hybrid graphics or the hard drive that I put in there is a little bit older, and maybe that hard drive just isn't really doing all that well anymore. So I'm going to play around with it some more this week and see. So that's what I got so far. I mean, I like it. I like the look of it. I definitely forgot how nice Cinnamon looked.
It's funny because I install it and I get that transparency working, and it just has that comfortable feel, man. I don't know why. It's not flashy like GNOME or KDE, but it just has that comfortable feel, and I really do enjoy seeing that. So
I really like their tools as well, like XEd and their image viewer, and like they've got the whole environment, right? And Cinnamon Mint's Cinnamon with all their tools is is an amazing experience. I agree the icons not being symbolic, being symbolic and not the official icons is a little weird, but otherwise, yeah, the theming is, even if I'm on a different distro, I put the Mint themes on there on the Cinnamon.
Yeah, it does look good. It really does look good.
All right, Simon, how are you? Welcome back.
Hey, Rocco, I'm well. Thank you.
What do you think of Linux Mint Debian?
I did install it. I installed it in a virtual machine. I'm no stranger to Linux Mint because I have installed it on actual hardware before, the main edition, that is. I had no problems with the install. It was very fast. I was up and running on a Cinnamon desktop very quick, and I was able to customize it the way I wanted. I did go with the transparent panel, so thanks for that, Steve. The only issue I would say I had with it, I was able to install all the software that I would use day to day without a problem. But when I ran updates on it, it persistently asked me if I wanted to use a local mirror. And I said yes, but it kept asking me, and it kept asking me, and it kept asking me, even though I kept saying yes. So I don't know why that was, but that was really the only little niggle I had with it. Other than that, it was absolutely fine. It was very, very smooth.
I've run into that a couple of times if I don't follow through with it. So I'll click yes on that. And if I don't actually go and choose a local mirror, it won't. It'll just keep asking you that same question. So I wonder, did you follow through? Did you actually click on that? Because I'm still at a point right now on my Mint install, LMDE install, where I can check.
I did check that box to switch to a local mirror, did switch to the local mirror, and it comes up every single time.
Interesting. All right. Well, I'll do it now just to see.
I'm glad it wasn't just me then.
No, it's not just you. It happens every time for me.
That was the only thing really. Other than that, I had no problems with it. As I say, I'm no stranger to Linux Mint, and I really like the Cinnamon desktop. Yeah, I really had no trouble with it at all. Just that one little thing.
Excellent. Thanks very much indeed, Simon. Mr. Arch Dreaming Wolf, how did you get on?
For 90% of the people in the world that just use computers, it would be fantastic. It installed with no problems. It was a dead simple installer. Everything explained, went in, fired right up. My setup script worked fine. The only issue I came across was I don't like the extended service release of Firefox because all my profiles are for the latest version. So I spent a couple days fighting to get that out. Even when I got the updated version in, the first time I ran it, it put an ESR profile in. And as many years as I've used Firefox, it was today that I learned that you can put in /profiles, and it has a profile manager.
It does.
Which I never knew because I'm an idiot. But other than that, honestly, I had to take a sledgehammer to it to get it to crash. To download the latest deb of Firefox needed the updated libc6. When I went to update that, it needed the updated locales. I had deconfigured the locales so I could get the libc6 updated, and I forgot to reconfigure them. So when I rebooted, it just locked. But other than that, honestly, I had to take a sledgehammer to break it. It just works. It was smooth. It looks nice. I can't say bad things about it. I just won't use it. It's not for me.
Yeah. And there are a number of distros that are going to be like that, which is nice that we've got a good choice.
Yep.
Thank you. John, welcome again. Settling in?
Hey, yeah. Can you guys hear me okay? I didn't get a chance to test my my audio.
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
So did you try Debian?
I did, yeah. I actually used it as my main work machine all week long. So and no real issues. Like Eric and Daniel were saying, it's beautiful. I haven't used Mint in years. Kind of holds a special place in my heart. Years ago, I got tired of fixing my mother-in-law's computer and told her I would only fix it if she switched over to Linux. Mint was the version I used back then, and she's been on Linux ever since. Every time she buys a new machine, she asks me to come, and we've since switched to Ubuntu, but she always has me come and reinstall it. But install went flawless. I put it on a little ThinkPad, very familiar to, I think, a Windows user. I don't prefer cinnamon, but I mean, it's beautiful, all the theming and everything. Couple minor issues that really isn't the fault. I actually joined it to my Active Directory at work, and both Flatpaks and snaps tend to have it's because of the permissions thing, the home folder. With an Active Directory account, it moves where your home folder is, so it's an easy fix. But if you're not aware of it, it can be a little bit maddening. Just minor gripes. I went through I really liked the little welcome screen that takes you through a bunch of, setting up your firewall. You might want to do this, that kind of stuff. I don't know if it's the timeout set really short or just the way it calls them, but I don't know about anybody else. I had to enter my password like 50 times, setting all every single one you click on, you have to re-enter your password. It doesn't honor the sudo timeout or whatever. That was a little frustrating. The other thing is, since I was using it for work, I turned on full disk encryption when I installed it, which worked just fine, no issue, except when you get the password, there's literally nothing that tells you. It's just an empty box on the screen. And if you didn't know, if you hadn't done full disk encryption before and know that's what you need to do, I think a new user might be a little bit puzzled. Why isn't my machine booting? And I've just got this blank box in the middle of my screen. I don't know what to do. Anyway, I just thought that was a little odd. But other than that, and the app thing, I was the one with Eric in the forum. I think I thought Eric was wrong. I said, "Oh no, it's fine on mine." Oh, turns out I was wrong. Yeah, it's pointing to the wrong app. Other than that, good experience.
I was going to say, my take on that welcome screen thing is not everybody will necessarily run through every single button. The average user of a Linux machine might not necessarily understand the concept of sudo having a timeout in the background type thing. So what I think they're trying to do is, no matter which icon you click to install, they're teaching you the security side of Linux, that you will have to install a password when you do something. I guess it's a bit like the old UAC control on Windows, where it asks you for every single time you wanted to do something. But because it's the welcome screen, some people might not worry about codecs and might just go straight to another button. And if they haven't already run the command, I don't know if you can add to that button script. Apt has already been, or sudo's already been run. Don't ask that again, just run it. I think it's just a complete package as a button, and they just change the command that it runs.
Well, they're certainly teaching you to remember your password when you set it up.
Yeah, well, there is that. No doubt. Ubuntu on Shickle, the name of the week.
Oh, Lord.
Something's different about you.
Is there?
You got your haircut.
Yep.
Oh, I did. That's right. Ooh, I forgot about that.
We got that new engine glow.
Nice.
Before we get just I know, Zeb, you've been here like in the last week as well, but it's good to hear your voice again. It's been a little while. So
thank you.
Agreed.
Back. I missed you. I couldn't get it to boot graphically, but I did install a newer kernel on it with the command line and got it running, and it's pretty good. It's Debian and Mint, as you were saying, so it's cool.
All right. Mr. Dave Jones. Hello, sir. Welcome.
Hi, how are you doing? Hope you can hear me.
Yeah, you sound fine. We're happy to have you.
Thanks. I didn't get a chance to I downloaded and put the image on a USB, but that's about as far as it got. Didn't get a chance. I've used Mint before, and I really like Cinnamon, but I wanted to ask Leo, or if anybody knows, a lot of times when you're trying to run Cinnamon in a live USB, I'll get videos in a software mode or something like that. I was always curious, what was that for?
Oh, it's because it's not using hardware acceleration when you're using it in a VM.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. You put it on real hardware that actually supports the 3D modes that it asks for, and it'll work okay.
Right, but it's always, I don't know, it's just, it seems odd to me. It's always in a big box and it makes it all scary.
Yeah. One of the things that I do, if I'm running Mint in a VM and I just want all the mintiness, but I don't care too much about the desktop environment, I'll just run the Mate edition of Mint, but that's not available to you, at least not right now with LMDE.
Mm.
So I'm hoping to be able to try it this
It's
week.
Mate, sorry.
That's
Oh,
okay.
you were right. It's
Mate, mate,
Mate.
it doesn't matter. Okay.
It's Mate to me.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're happy to have you, Dave. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining. Thomas, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
Not bad. What do you think of LMDE?
Honestly, I haven't had a lot of time to try it out this week. What little I did try it out. So I had a weird issue where when it booted up, it wasn't in the full resolution of the VM window. It was stuck at 1024 by 768. I didn't take the time to try and see if I could fix that in display settings. I just went ahead and installed it. I don't know if they're using Ubiquity still, because that installer looks different, but it does look similar. So if they're not using Ubiquity anymore, let me know what they're using. If they are, okay.
They have their own for LMDE. It's they made for the regular Mint version, but not for LMDE.
Okay, is it like a fork or something?
It's its own installer, I think. I'm not really sure where it comes from.
Okay. Other than that, the first time I booted it up, it did not give me a graphical interface at all. So I just shut it down, booted it with no mode set, which I didn't think I would need to do in a VM, but I did. Did some tweaking, updated, rebooted, and I was good. So I don't know what happened on that first boot, but it was being finicky, and after a quick update, it was fine. I'll tinker with it a little bit more in this coming week. Don't know if I'm actually going to get to do that because I might be learning a new programming language. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully I can find a way to get a Linux kernel to compile in 6 seconds, which is impressive.
That's
Anyway.
crazy fast.
It is.
Cool.
I'll talk about that stuff later, though.
Alrighty. Well, thanks, Thomas. Colin, how are you this evening?
I'm good, thanks. Have I got sound or I haven't got sound? Does it
Got sound,
okay?
and you sound like your normal self.
Okay, my normal self. I'll go next week.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Very nice. Esnix, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm fine. How's everyone doing?
Fantastic.
Cool. Well, I did a video and I've put LMDE on an old laptop I have, and it worked beautifully. I used UEFI mode, did the partitioning manually. My laptop just has Intel graphics, so I didn't have to deal with any driver issues. And LMDE was beautiful. It just worked. If I wanted Cinnamon on Debian, I'd probably go with it, but being an XFCE person, I don't really have any reason to switch, but I can't see anything wrong with it, at least on the hardware I tried it on.
Okay.
It looks and acts just like Linux Mint to me, but then again, I don't use Cinnamon that much, so I might not have noticed any subtle differences. I would recommend it to someone who wants, if it meets a need.
Very nice.
That's about it.
Very nice. So let me ask you before we move on. You say you run Debian. Is this something that you would be comfortable running on a daily basis if, you didn't have Debian?
Well, I can't see it existing without Debian being available.
Right, obviously. But I mean, I'm more referring to you being used to Debian and being used to the Debian edition. So.
Well, I don't know. I have if it came in other desktop options out of the box, maybe. I know I could
install whatever I want after it's installed, but I really don't like removing default desktop environments
right,
and putting my own in, just because there's always cruft left over from the developers' choices. So for me, starting out with Debian itself and just adding what I want is always better for me. But if I needed something in an emergency, quick install, Debian based, certainly easy to go with it.
very nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Big Pod, sir, what's up? What's happening?
Much is happening. I didn't get to try LMD, whatever. I get lost in these acronyms. There's too many acronyms in the world, so Linux Big Debian edition. I didn't get time to try it, but I did stream this week, so I decided I'm gonna try it during a stream. Install somewhere next week, probably in a few coming days.
Excellent. Tony, Mr.
Hello.
Mint Man, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
As I said last week, I'd already installed LMDE4 on my Dell. It's a E7440, and I'd had a couple of problems. As Rocco was saying, when I installed it originally, Grub was a problem, and it wouldn't boot after install. Tried it 3 times, couldn't get it to boot. So ended up installing Mint 19.3 alongside it, and that provided Grub. And I could boot into the system. Once I got into the system, it was fine. But I thought this week, I thought I'd try it out on another machine. So I tried it on the bigger Dell. I've got a 6540, and I had exactly the same problem with it. So I stuck it on an X230 that I've got, and it installed flawlessly on that, no problem at all. So there's some kind of bug or some kind of setting in BIOS or something that's preventing Grub being installed properly on the 2 Dells I've tried it on anyway. So anyway, once I'd got over that issue, one of the great things I liked about LMDE and Debian as a stock is that when you first boot into it after the install, you get the option to install the non-free software, drivers and things, and codecs. So I picked that option off the welcome screen, did that, got all those installed. And then the next thing I did was install the Mate desktop. Got that set up. So I am currently sat here on the Dell 7440, talking to you from the LMDE 4 install with the Mate desktop. And
Very
it's
nice.
Great. Yeah, I've been running it all week. Did my seen as the lug has gone virtual this morning, did the virtual lug meeting with my crew here in Blackpool this morning. We used Jutsi. Once I figured out that Firefox wasn't the preferred way of accessing that, changed over to Chromium and got that working. And yeah, it's been good. I am having a problem, and I'm not sure it's anything to do with LMDE4. Is using different audio input. I tried it last week on my other Dell using Linux Mint 19.3, and I couldn't get my mic to work. So I'm using the internal laptop mic at the moment, which is one of the problems I had when I was first logging on. So that's how I got bumped to the end of the queue. But otherwise, I'm really happy with it. It's stable. I've not had any crashes. Yeah.
No, it's good.
Go on.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. On a point of what you were saying, one of the tests for me is, can I just use it and forget that I'm using a new distro? Or am I constantly battling with XYZ? And with LMDE, installed it, set it all up, and it just ran no matter what I did. And at the end of the week, I suddenly realized, oh, I'm still on Linux Mint.
Yeah,
Wonder what
I agree
PEP
with
looks like. So I had to boot back into the PEP just to remind myself. So that for me is a testament of a good distro. So thanks for that, Tony.
Yeah.
Scrap Jaw.
Good evening.
Good evening. How you doing? And did you try Linux Mint Debian?
I have in the past. I did not this week. I've been kind of buried in some other little projects and things. It's on my radar, but I'm just here to hang out tonight. So, hey.
Excellent. Thank you.
Very
All right.
nice. Does anybody else have any?
We have one more guest, Rocco. Richard snuck in on us.
Uh-oh.
Hey, Richard, how are you?
Yeah, good. I'm good, thank you. How are you guys? Gosh, it's busy in here tonight, isn't it? Loads of
It
people.
sure is. 31 in chat and over 100 on the stream. So, yeah.
Well, actually, Rick is here to talk about some things that we're going to get into in this next segment. So,
okay.
I don't think, Rick, you didn't try Linux Mint Debian Edition or anything like that, right?
I did a few years ago. I used to use it on a laptop that I had a wee while ago. I quite liked it. I'm a big bit of a fan of Debian.
All right. Before we go to that, though, does anybody have any closing thoughts they want to add to Linux Mint Debian Edition?
We had a lot of people saying mate instead of mate. And as the only Australian here, I insist that Colin says mate at least once on this stream. No,
Colin?
He's not going to do it?
Whatever, mate.
There it is. Thank you.
I love it. All right. Those are our initial thoughts on Linux Mint Debian Edition. We will give it another week of testing, and then we will come back next week, give our final thoughts on it, and talk about it some more. So there you go. But Rick joined us just in time because he is going to be talking to us about two subjects. One is the Ubuntu focus, and two is the testing week for Ubuntu and Ubuntu specifically. So, Rick, we talked about the Ubuntu focus before you were here. Talk to us again. Now, it has released now. You released some, the press release for it with all of the specs and all of the things. Tell us about it.
Yeah, okay. So obviously the launch for the Ubuntu Focus was at the beginning of February, and I think the last time we spoke, it was either going live and was just about to start shipping. It was right on the cusp, and so we were getting those early orders in, and we're shipping the product out there. So we've had a month and a half now, almost 2 months, I suppose, to progress this, and like all things, I suppose there are a few challenges as always of getting things off the ground, but I think that the team have really got up to speed now, and so they've been obviously work with Tuxedo in Europe and EMEA, and then obviously Mindshare Management. We were working with those guys in the States to get shipments shipped out, and those things are now gone out to users, and so we're starting to get some feedback and some some results from what's out there. One of the things that came back quite quickly was that battery life was not kind of as good as people would want it to be. And although we've got a lot of performance on the machine, people really wanted to get better than 2 hours battery life. So Mike and the team worked on that really hard to get the kind of graphics enhancements so that the switching could be done between the NVIDIA drivers and the Intel onboard drivers, and they provided some updates out. So there is basically a set of repositories, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, about something called Focus RX in a moment. But there's basically a bunch of repositories that update the machine, and those updates have gone out, and so now they're getting 4.5 hours battery life or thereabouts out of the machine. And those are real world tests. I've seen that on my test machine as well. And so there's been a bunch of improvements there. And obviously, there's been updates to the website, which have taken place recently. And then obviously we wandered into pandemic virus territory, didn't we? So now, there are some challenges with supply and things like that. But so far, I think it's been a great success. It really has. We've got, we'd only contracted really for 100 units, and we're a fair percentage of that through already. So basically, Canonical and Ubuntu Council had agreed that this would be a pilot project to see how it went for 100 units to start with, and the team's making really good progress. So overall, I think things are progressing really well, and the team at Mindshare now are really starting to work on the customer experience and the product experience. So there was a few initiatives that went out really just recently. I think it was a week ago. They did a press release for something called Stay Focused. Now, the idea there was that they wanted to address order to build and ship time. So one of the things they felt was that sometimes lead time for getting your machine can be a bit long. So now they're targeting 2 days from order to shipping to getting that out to the customer, that's really impressive.
That's fantastic.
That's really good. Yeah. So that makes a big difference as well. The overall kind of package has been enhanced a little bit, just to include a bit more stuff in it, making sure that people are getting the machine manuals and the welcome packs that come with it, and the keys with the software on, etc. So that whole thing has been updated on the website as well. So the whole thing kind of feels a bit more shiny, I suppose, is the word I'm looking for. And I suppose because the target market is like the Windows 10 users and the MacBook Pro people that are thinking about, okay, they're looking at a next machine, and they're looking at the value propositions in the market. And obviously packaging and presentation and kind of product polish is really quite important to that market sector too. So there's been some improvements done there as well, Rocco. Yeah.
So one of the things that was in that Stay Focused initiative is the courtesy unit cross-shipped. So if you have to send your unit back for repairs, this is something that I don't believe is offered anywhere else.
Yeah, so this is quite an inspired initiative, actually, because reading through the details and talking to Mike and the team about what they were planning to do. So they're effectively, they call it cross-shipping a loaner, is the way Mike describes it. But I think the intention is that they'll ship you the loaner before you ship your machine for repair or for any work that you want done on it. And then giving you the opportunity as well to move any data across to the loaner machine so that you can continue being productive whilst you ship your machine back for repair and versioning, and then obviously the return back in the other direction as well. And that's part of that Stay Focused initiative that they've got going on as well, which I think it's kind of like, it's trying to raise the bar, isn't it, for the customer's experience and what you're delivering to them, which I think is a good move.
Yep. I would have liked to seen the Stay Focused initiative press release to be, a little bit more on the team-oriented side as far as other companies using and or supplying computers that you would buy. But there are a lot of things in here that are that make it stand out regardless. So give us one or two more of the highlights, Rick, that would make it stand out from the others.
Okay, so I've got some of those written down, right? So I've got some bullet points to bring to you. I spoke to Mike and the team and said, hey, listen, give me some some bullet points. And what did I do with those? I've got them right here. Hang on 1 second. Where have I put those now? Okay, well, do you know what? I'll just have to forget the bullet points. I'll just have to do it straight off the top of my head.
Just do it live.
So yeah, just do it live, right? It's a live gig, yeah. Okay, so I mean, I think that obviously there's a whole bunch of things that are listed on the website actually, and if I go there, that'll give me a little cue because you're quite right. And one of the things that we probably should talk about, actually, in fairness, is the challenge in and around the overall community, because I think that it did most certainly, the press release certainly ruffled a few feathers out there, and particularly I suspect if you go to the kfocus.org website, you can see that there's kind of like there's some competitor tables there where there's kind of a whole block of green for the K-Focus, right? So the K-Focus is promoting its kind of key features. And what they're saying is like, hey, listen, the product's going to be built your way and shipped the next day. Well, that's quite catchy. They provide live remote desktop support, a courtesy laptop that'll be cross-shipped if yours needs to go in for repair. They've done lots of hardware optimization. And that's worth spending a moment to talk about that a little bit. So we talked about the graphics switching and making the changes there. But also, depending on your use case, right, there's a whole bunch of K-Focus commands that come with the K-Focus PPAs. So for example, if you want the K-Focus machine learning, you can enter a command for that. And what it'll do is it'll install Anaconda, Jupyter notebooks, it'll install all the NVIDIA CUDA libraries and set the machine up for working with machine learning. And depending on the different workflows that you might have, there are commands that come as part of the K-Focus kind of command line tools that allow you to set the machine up for those kinds of hardware optimizations as well. Obviously, it comes with full disk encryption out of the box, and they've now provided YubiKey support for it. I think that was being requested by some of the like larger. There's been some interest in the scientific community and the education community as well, and I think part of the requirements in the like professional data science and scientific community was that kind of security and the YubiKey idea. So I think Mike and the team have introduced that as well. Obviously, they highlight here that it's user expandable and serviceable, and it comes with the manuals in the box to enable you to do that as well. So all of that information is there, and that's encouraged, and the team will provide support to their customers if they need to do that. A whole bunch of ready to run workflows. They keep putting more and more work into that. So professional photography, having all the tools to do that. If you want to do audio workstation work, there's been some work going on in the background with an audio mixing tool, like a digital audio workstation called Reaper, that you can install. And obviously, I think, Mike, I've been talking to Mike about utilizing Jack, the Jack audio subsystem for that, which would mean that you kind of have audio workstation stuff that you may well want to couple that with video editing and things like that. Obviously, TensorFlow stuff for CUDA and things like that talked about before. So there's a bunch of stuff there on the website, and I think that certainly did ruffle some feathers, and we had a conversation about that. So I take a representative position for Kubuntu in the council, and I meet with the team from Tuxedo and Mindshare usually on a Tuesday evening UK time, and so we had some discussions recently about kind of the heat that was happening in the community, and some conversations on Twitter and things like that, where obviously everybody wants to see Linux and these kind of like OEM machines that the distributions are working to put out there. Everybody wants to see that be successful, and sometimes I think that we're so passionate about wanting to achieve that we can kind of almost get in an internal fight, when actually the vector that we want to be aiming for is those, the Windows 10, and particularly where now that Windows 7 has gone end of life and people are thinking about, okay, what am I going to do for my next machine, and how do I put myself in an environment where cloud native is kind of like right there for me on my machine? That's a tremendous market space opportunity. But yeah, I mean, I can talk more about the kind of heat in the community if you want to, but obviously that was one of the things that we needed to consider, and we decided to take some strategic steps there.
Well, I don't think it's something that we need to get into. I think that we should all be on the same team. I mean, I understand there's a business side of it to where you want to, obviously want to sell laptops. But I think in the end, I think we're all fighting on the same team. So, yeah. Anything else you want to get in there about the focus before we move on to testing week?
Yeah, okay. So I think the last thing is that the next initiative that's rolling out, and it's going to happen really soon. I know that Mike's been working with the guys at Tuxedo, is something called Focus RX. And basically, this is a bunch of auto start scripts that run in the background. And obviously you opt into them, right? So they don't just turn on, but they give you the option to opt into them. And what that will do is it will maintain the updates and pull it in new tools and new features and all this kind of stuff. And kind of so as they develop out like new features and new workflows and things like that, those will be available to you. But it's done on a consent kind of way. So if you agree that you want to have Focus RX active on your Ubuntu Focus, then you can activate that by a dialog that comes up when you first log in. And then once it's activated, it goes away and gets out your way. You don't see it again until something new happens, some new feature, some new piece of functionality, some additions for workflow. Then it will tell you about those things and let you know. And if you want that option, you can say, yes, install that for me, or you can say, no, don't install that for me. So that's the kind of thing that the Focus RX will be doing for users and for customers. And I'm fairly sure that Mike and the team will probably be putting some press announcements out about that in due course. But that's a little bit of an exclusive for you to let you know what they're working on next.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. Thank you, Rick, for letting us know about the focus, and I'd love to keep us updated on other new things as well down the road. But you're here to also talk about something else. Tell us about the testing week.
Okay, so well, do you know that the first thing I want to say about this, right, was that there'd been some discussion here and there in the individual communities about the run up to 20.04. But one individual in mind, Yusuf Phillips, J. Phillips, his name is, he turned up on the IRC channels and started making communications with the various distros to drive this initiative for Ubuntu Test Week. And I deliberately mention him because I think he deserves a fantastic pat on the back for just taking the initiative, driving something forward, finding the people to communicate to. He went off and set up a Telegram group, Ubuntu testers, and invited various people from all the different distributions. And now in this channel, there's this hive of activity going on that I haven't seen for a long time, where all of the different distros, Ubuntu, Ubuntu, some people from Ubuntu Studio, and obviously Kubuntu team as well, are all working together to try to rally around this testing week. And the testing week is going to take place from begins on the 2nd of April, and it runs for a week. And obviously it's running the nightly betas and the nightly builds off for 20.04, installing it on different machines, installing it in virtual machines, running through the OME installs, and basically running through the test plans that are available upon Ubuntu, the Ubuntu website, and then being able to test all of that stuff and see whether we can discover any bugs and report anything. But the really nice thing about that is that this announcement's gone out on most of the distro flavors websites as well. And those communications have gone out independently. So each individual team have probably written something specific to their team. I know certainly on our side, Val, who is like another council member and community manager with me, Valerie Zimmerman, she published the announcement to kubuntu.org. So you can see the details about the test week up on kubuntu.org if you want to go and see it there. But the activity has been really fantastic. And so it's got quite a lot of energy around it. And it's definitely something people should take a look at. because I think it's going to prove very beneficial for the 20.04 LTS release.
Yeah, I think there was pretty much everybody involved that I could see in those. Each one had their own little separate section of saying, "Hey, we're going to all push this together." I think that's awesome. Alan, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I agree. It's lovely to have this as a community initiative. It's not something Canonical are driving. We're not, trying to round up everyone. As Rick said, Yusuf has been doing like the bulk of the work. I think this is one of those things in all Linux communities where you need someone to push everyone in the same direction. You could very easily just ask people and say, "Hey, could you do this thing?" And they'll probably say yes. If it's a thing they can do and they can fit it in their time, they'll say yes. But sometimes you need to push them because they're volunteering their time and they don't necessarily have a lot of that. And they might get distracted by something else. And because he's been pushing and pushing and pushing, it's been a motivator for everyone else, because everyone else is like, well, okay, if this guy feels super passionate about this, those guys over there feel passionate about this, I think we should all get involved and contribute our time and get this thing moving. So I think that has been good, is to have someone who's passionate and wants to move this thing forward. So yeah, as Rick said, from April the 2nd, which is Thursday this week coming, we'll just be trying to motivate people to grab the ISO images, test them out, all the usual stuff that we talk about. I've put videos on my YouTube channel. I'm going to do some more this week to go through the things that need to be done.
That is the beta, right?
Yeah, it is, and it's that kind of. We've already gone through the freeze, so we're getting close to. I mean, it comes out on the 23rd, the LTS release, and this is an LTS, so it's going to stick around for a long time. Like, when you think there are still people now running 1404, in fact, we have people on IRC the other day saying, "Oh, I've got this system. It's running 1204 and it's running really well, but I think I should probably upgrade it." And we're like, "Holy cow, dude! That's like super old. You totally need to upgrade it." But the LTSs are really sticky. People install them and they deploy services on them, or they run desktops and they just keep them. And they're just like, this is good for me. I don't want to change. I'll stay here. And we think 2004 is going to be another one of those, because it's a really, really good release. It's got some good, cool stuff in it, and all the flavors are involved. And so it makes sense. Like, help make it as good as it can be by helping us test it and find any of those glitches and bugs and issues.
Right.
I think 2004 is going to be another one of those golden ones for me, like 1404 was. I mean, 1404 was just awesome. It was the time for me when Linux just worked. I jumped on the beta releases from a very, very early day, and they just worked.
And there's a bunch of other distros that build upon 2004. So you've got your Pop OS and your Linux Mint and your Elementary, and they're all building their next releases on top of this 2004 base. So even if you don't use Ubuntu, and even if you use one of those derivatives, why not help test 2004? Because you're going to be consuming the stuff that's in 2004 in these other derivative distros as well. So it makes sense for it to be as good as it can possibly be.
Yep.
I've been running the daily live, gosh, I think since about 2 or 3 weeks now. And like, not only is it a great opportunity to find issues, report them, and stuff like that, but the team that are responsible for fixing bugs and like going through them and all, like, they've been incredibly responsive. Like, they're seriously hammering away at this. Like, I've seen things get fixed in a matter of hours after they were reported, and I'm like, whoa, that's really cool.
Well, we talk about.
Yeah, we're not going to set any expectations that all of the bugs are going to be fixed in that time. just yours, Shekel, because we love you.
Is part of the community effort going to be helping people triage and report bugs? Even myself, as an experienced user, I have to say that during my last few weeks with 2004, there's been a couple situations I've run into where I literally have no idea how to report something, because I could use Ubuntu bug, but I don't know what the problem is. I don't know how to pick what I should report. And when I go to Launchpad and try to find things, like I feel a little overwhelmed by the process sometimes.
Well,
so yes, and I'm going to make a couple of videos at the start of this week to like G people along and point people in the right direction. But the ultimate goal is not actually to get more bug reports. We don't actually want more because we've got thousands of them already. There's no way we're going to fix all of them. But being realistic, but what we really need is people to just try and identify those issues. If there are any proper showstoppers, things where there's potential data loss or things where the system doesn't boot, things that you really don't want on day one of your release, right? Other stuff, we can fix down the line, but big showstoppers are the things we really want to find. And on the subject of filing those bugs, talk to us. Like, there's an IRC channel where the desktop team hang out. There's a Telegram channel where all these testers are going to hang out, and we'll link to that in all our announcements. Talk to us. Don't
do
feel
what I
like you
do
have
and
to-
just private message Alan and say what's going on with this.
Dude, the person who does this. But and that's okay. It doesn't scale. Like, I can't have thousands of people DMing me, although that does happen. It's fine. But actually being self-directed and you being able to figure it out yourself is way better. And yeah, don't feel like you have to be isolated. Like, I know we're all suffering from self-isolation fatigue right now, but don't feel like a Linux distribution like this has been interconnected with people for 15 years. We've been doing this, and so we know how to talk to people online. You could just come and talk to us.
I guess that was kind of where I was going with it, was as a community effort, is there a place, is there a Telegram group, is there a forum, is there somewhere I can go and say, hey, I'm having this issue, I can't tell if it's already been reported. Like, I've been bugging Bill or Dan. So
yeah. So there's an Ubuntu testers Telegram group, and there's an Ubuntu quality IRC channel. And if you hate Telegram, don't worry, you can use IRC. And if you hate IRC, don't worry, you can use Telegram. And I've set up Matter Bridge to gate between them, so you'll see.
Maybe we can link to those then for people. That would be helpful.
Yeah, Tesla's one has already been put into YouTube by Bill. I think.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you for that. And as DT says in the chat, he says Linux users are handling the quarantine better than most. We typically don't interact with other human beings that much anyway. Well, I mean, he has a point. He kind of has a point. But that's the thing. You can spend a bit of that time that this special situation has given us, a bit of extra time at home, put something on a USB key, try it out, see if, if you find no problems, great, move on. But if you do, let us know so we can make this as good as it can be.
Rick, do you have somewhere people can go specifically for Kubuntu, or where would you send them for like Kubuntu bug reports and stuff?
Yeah. Okay. So obviously, it gets a bit challenging with Ubuntu a little bit, because some of the bugs might belong in Ubuntu and some of them might belong in KDE, because of course we're shipping the KDE software stack on top of Ubuntu and the KDE desktop. So there are those two places there. But built into Ubuntu anyway, if you load up the IRC client from any distro that you've installed, it'll immediately take you to, it'll load the channels that are available to you on IRC, which is Ubuntu users and Ubuntu support, I think, off the top of my head. And obviously you can go to the website, kubuntu.org, go to the news page, and we've got information there about the April testing showing, and things are linked there as well. And then obviously that you can get access to the Telegram channels. Now, I'd have to check off the top of my head to see whether we've still got the IRC implemented on kubuntu.org, but we did have a web-based IRC client that would put you into the Ubuntu support IRC channel, so you could go there as well. But yeah, if you go and take a look at the website, or from Ubuntu itself, open up the IRC client that's available in the distro as stock, and that will take you to the appropriate IRC channel where you can ask your question.
What I've found in the past couple of days as well, because I filed a couple bugs where like I didn't realize they were already filed. just because the search terms that I used didn't really match what I was actually looking for. If they find that and they mark it as a duplicate, like, don't get discouraged. Just follow the new bug. If anything, that just means that, like, you're not alone. So it's a good thing.
That also means people are actually looking at them.
Yeah, and I was going to say to Eric, I think Alan taught me very well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, but even if you can't provide all of that technical detail, if you can just describe what were you doing, what happened when you were doing it, someone in the background will go, actually, that sounds a bit like that. And they'll come back to you and say, can I have XYZ, please? And I've found them super helpful, and I've never had anyone go, well, why didn't you use the search? This is the same as that.
Yeah, there's a guy on the Ubuntu desktop team. Well, there's a bunch of guys on the desktop team, and one of them has, for like 12 years, for an hour a morning, every morning, triages bugs. It's like, it's quite a job to maintain. There are quite a flood of bugs coming in, and sometimes you'll get a reply that might look like a little bit terse, or you might feel, it strikes you in the heart that they're not taking your bug super seriously and a super high priority, and you are a valued, important customer to us. But look at all the other bugs. Like, you're one of 1,000 people filing bugs. So don't be too disheartened if the response you get is, well, yeah, we're not sure, give us more information.
If it sounds like it came from the Arch forums instead of Ubuntu.
I wouldn't say that. You said that.
All right, so the idea is to, starting April 2nd, download the ISOs and test out as much as you possibly can. Now, obviously, we're not going to do, on Biddle itself, we're not going to do a distro challenge for Ubuntu until it actually releases. But in between testing whatever, and I think coming up, for the next couple of weeks, I think we'll get one more distro challenge in, and then right before the release, that week beforehand, we will probably just have an open week, and then the following week when it releases, for the final release, we will end up doing a challenge on each of them. But just between the challenges, whatever you can do to test these things out, just even if you just want to do your favorite version of it, at least do something of them.
To the point of testing, I did have one question. So, Alan, were you hoping people would run through the test cases on the website?
Well, it's both, really, because the test cases that are on the ISO tracker, so iso.qa.ubuntu.com is the website, and they have fixed test cases, which are, install, use your default language, wipe the disk, try it without a network card connected, try encrypting it while you do the install. So there's a fixed set of tests, but also you kind of need to bust outside those boundaries to see what real people do with with computers, what humans do, like install Steam, try and play a game, install whatever your favorite web browser is, however you do that, like whatever your normal instructions are, do that. Go off piste and try some different things, because the test cases only cover a limited set of tests. They don't cover everything, and oftentimes you only find some of these bugs when people try using the computer like a normal human being uses a computer.
Yep.
I had something to add to that.
Yeah, on that note, I've been messing around with Ubuntu 20.0 for months now. I have a specific laptop that's been running it. I've done all kinds of stuff too. I've tried to break the dang thing so many times. I haven't been able to yet. I've installed KDE on my channel on it, all that kind of stuff. I've even shown people how to upgrade 1910 early on it for my channel. But I honestly, I found only 4 bugs I've had to report on 2004 in my time. And those 4 bugs were addressed immediately and fixed. So they're actually doing a great job fixing them. And most of them were off the beaten path. I was doing some strange thing. I just happened to run into something. So yeah, so I would just say try to break it. Just try to break it. Yeah, that would be my advice in trying this stuff, because that's normally when you find the bugs.
Scrap, you want to get in?
Yeah, one of the things that learned to do by chance was to learn to, if you have an app that doesn't behave properly, one, or two, crashes at some point, whether it's at launch or whatever, launch that app from the terminal and watch the terminal window, because it will show you what is happening when it happens. That's what told me I had to do something with my video drivers with Steam at one point. There were some conflicts with that, and I'm sure if you go look them up, they're pretty common at some time, but they've been sorted out by now. But it tells you a lot. And sometimes you can even fix it yourself, or you can search what does that thing mean? There's a .so somewhere it can't find, and you can even copy paste that into a bug report. It's easier than trying to go find wherever the log dump is sometimes.
Yep. That is great
super
advice.
valuable information. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that's super useful.
Bill, you want to get in on this as well?
Yeah, I wanted to make mention of something. There's some individual named Martin Wimpress, and he does some things with Linux. I don't know what he does, but he has a channel that he's been doing some YouTube live streams. And he also has a project called Quick EMU. And this project dovetails perfectly into this testing. What it is a bash script that lets you easily install distros to test. And you can Z-Sync if you go onto the QA ISO page, you'll see some Z-Sync instructions. And what that lets you do is download one distro and then Z-Sync it, so you don't have to keep downloading 2 gigabyte distros. It just takes the deltas and gives you that ISO. You can use this program, and I'll link it in the YouTube chat, to just easily make on Linux VMs and test. And yes, we want you to test on real hardware, because I test, but I only have a limited amount of hardware. But you can still find things in VMs, and it is great. Please don't be discouraged. Alan has mentioned using a USB key and installing to that directly. That means you can use your hardware instead of worrying about installing something on your hard drive. You're installing to a USB key, and you're using your hardware with your video cards and the specifics you have. And if those don't work, it's more than likely something we need to know about. So I'll put that link in there, but please go try that. It's awesome.
It is. I used it to install LMDE earlier, so it's super easy. It's not got a pretty GUI. He is considering doing that. It is just a shell script, but you create a little config file, which is super easy. There's only 2 lines to it, and then you run it, and it picks up the ISO image and boots a VM. But it's nice and fast, and it's easy to use. It's not as pretty as VirtualBox, but it's easy to install, and it just works. So yeah,
fantastic. Anybody got anything they want to add or questions they have for the testing week?
Yeah. Good evening. Sorry I'm late.
Hi, Chris.
And sorry I missed last week, but we had some major stuff going on at work, trying to push out a bunch of laptops to get out to people for use during the self isolation. Anyway, one thing, in building on top of what Scrap is saying, journal control -F is a wonderful tool as well. And what that'll do is that'll follow your system log in real time. And so you could have that sitting in a command window or command line window as you're starting the stuff up, and it'll show you what is being loaded, what the command is that's being executed, etc. And it's a JOURNALCTL -F. And I can't tell you how many things I've been able to troubleshoot just
Could you
because I'm
put that
looking
in the
at the
chat?
log. I'm using my phone right at the moment. but I'll see if I can figure out how to do that.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
We are at the top of the hour here, and it's been a great biddle as always. A lot of people on the stream, a lot of people in Zoom. It's fantastic, but I've been bursting all stream. Rocco shared something with me yesterday that's extremely exciting. I think it is, and so with all that hype and build up, Rocco, what is the special announcement?
Well, okay, I wish I could say I coincided it with the testing week release, but I didn't because I don't plan that out that well. But the Linux Spotlight this week, I enjoy every Linux Spotlight, regardless of who it is, and I enjoy the conversations that I have. But I am super excited for Wednesday's episode. I got to sit down. I got the pleasure of sitting down with Mark Shuttleworth of Canonical and talking to him for 45 minutes. Well, actually, there's 50. I edited it down, but it was 45 minutes of
Jump back.
A great
That's so
conversation,
awesome.
dude. It was
Wow.
awesome.
So awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
I wonder if a couple of people that we know very well from Canonical might have helped with that.
I tell you what, it wouldn't have been possible without some help. So I'm just going to leave it at that. And yeah, so the patrons of the channel will receive the link for that tomorrow morning at 8:00, and they can watch it early. It'll release on Wednesday, 6 a.m. as the usual time for LS. And everybody will get to see it. So I'm just super excited for that episode. It went really well.
The only problem is now, though, Rocco, is you've set the bar. So when are we getting
I think it's a mix, and that's what I want it to be. I want it to be a mix of everybody, people you know in the limelight, and people from Biddle that maybe you don't know. And I think that's a perfect mix. I did another Linux Spotlight episode this week, and it's a Biddle member. So it's like, and that will be releasing on the 8th, I guess. So it's like, that's what I want it to be. I want it to be a place where you can go to see anybody's journey into Linux, regardless of who you are.
Well, you've certainly done that, and I must say that it is one of my favourite things that I look forward to every single week, because you just don't know who you're going to get, what you're going to get, how the conversation's going to go, and I've never seen a bad one yet. So, Rocco, thank you very much for putting them out there, mate.
Zeb, it's funny you said that, because I thought that literally the second thing I said back to Rocco, one was congratulations. Second, it was, that is so cool, because that just puts everybody on the same level, right? It's one community from Mark Shuttleworth all the way down to any one of us, as part of Biddle. And that's what I love about Linux Spotlight more than anything. Yeah.
I hear by the grapevine that he was super looking forward to doing it, Rocco. So
nice.
He loves talking to the community just as much as anyone else does. And I heard it on good authority that he was just as excited.
Very nice. Well, I was super excited. And of course, sometimes I make mistakes. So, I'm just fortunate that I didn't make, a complete fool of myself. I did make a few mistakes, but hey, it all went pretty well. So yeah, look forward to that.
So everyone needs to subscribe and ring the little bell,
so you get that notification. And YouTube has been killing me lately. This whole stream started so bad because of, I set it up like I set it up every single week, and yet this week it decides to not pick the right stream and go. So you know what? Right? You know what I'm talking about, Steve. All right. I would like to, before we go, thank Rick for showing up, talking about the Ubuntu Focus and the testing week. I appreciate it, Rick.
Oh, it's great. It's brilliant to come on here and chat to you guys. And the most exciting thing was seeing how many people there are here. There's like 2 screens, and it's fantastic to see this being so popular, Rocco. But yeah, I'll come back again when I got some more stuff to tell you. Thank you very much for having me on.
And I would also like to thank all of the people in the UK. Forgive me if I don't mention everybody, but all of you guys that stay up for this, and not only you're staying up at a normal time, but your clocks just switched over, I believe. So now it's 3 a.m. So I appreciate you staying up and keeping with us. All right. That's going to be it. We're out of time, but everybody gets a last word. Eric Adams, last word.
Thank you to Linux Mint for giving us an excellent distribution to test with. My tiny little complaints aside, it is that wonderful Mint experience we've all known and loved, and it's really amazing that you pulled it off on top of Debian like that. So, and otherwise, it's great to see everybody here. So many people in Zoom, so many people on the stream. I love it. It's fantastic. I look forward to it all week. So everybody have a great week. Take care of yourself. Stay safe.
PZ, last word, brother.
Yeah, well, thank you, Rocco, for putting this on. I know it's an old cliche now. It's a bit like it just works, but this really is the highlight of my week, coming here, chatting to all the people that turn up. And on that 2 screens issue, let's get a little email off to Zoom and ask them to increase the client to 50 at least in Linux. Windows users, I don't know how many they can have in Zoom, but it's certainly more than 25.
I'm pretty sure it goes up to 100 users on the main screen. Now, obviously, you wouldn't want to see 100 users because the boxes would be really super tiny, but definitely want over 25. So
yeah. So thanks, everybody, and keep safe, and just keep your family safe. And just as important, look after your neighbors. It's not just about you and your family. Look after your friends and neighbors as well.
Awesome. Very nice, Seb. Bill, last word, brother.
Thank you, Rocco, Eric, Dan, Zeb. Thank you for all you do as well. Thank you for the Mintcast guys that came out here. Awesome to have you on. Y'all, everybody take care.
Yep. Peter, last word.
A joke and serious. The joke is keep safe from Corona. Keep your 6 foot distance. Wash your hands. And the real serious part is last week I put a call out for the food banks. Please, I beg you, help us. Because we are the front line right now helping people who are losing jobs. I had so much overtime last week, I felt guilty. So please help us.
Very nice. Aris, last word.
Thank you for the stream and excited for the next spotlight.
Awesome. Joe, thank you for being here. Last word.
Thanks for having us on. Listen to the Mintcast.
Penguin, last word.
Can you guys?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Your mic's gone really, really bad.
Yeah. Tony, last word.
Yeah, thanks for doing this, Rocco. In the current climate, it's really good to have this to look forward to, and I'm loving the spotlights as well. They're brilliant. Just take care of everyone and make sure that you do what you can to help your neighbours, friends, anybody that's got problems. But most of all, keep your distance, wash your hands, and stay safe till next week.
Alan, last word.
Thank you, Rocco, as always. And a new season of the Ubuntu podcast started today. So if you head on over to ubuntupodcast.org, you'll find a new episode with myself, Martin, and Mark.
Linux Spotlight just got competition again. Ooh.
Mark's back. All right.
I love it. All right. Dan Kelly, sir. Last word.
As usual, Rocco, thank you for putting on the show, and thanks to your helpers that helped you make this possible. Thanks to the guys in the UK that they jumped in and were able to visit with us tonight. And I'm looking forward to when Ubuntu comes out with the new release, and we all get to try it out and see how well it works and see if there's any more bugs in it. And with that said, next.
TechMav, last word.
Well, I guess one good side effect of a pandemic is you get to be reminded of what is important in life in this community. And I've actually been able to take the time, sit down, and enjoy and take part more from dealing with middle to night to other aspects. So just remember everybody and live on.
Very nice. Very nice. True words. Barbara, last word.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank Rocco and Eric and Zeb and Bill and whoever else, and
Dan.
Scrapjaw for the outro, which
Yes.
I love.
I love it too.
Yes, that's great. And yeah, I just downloaded another one of the dailies for Ubuntu Mate. I'm going to play with that this week. And everybody stay safe. Wash your hands. Stay 6 feet apart or 2 meters apart if you're not in the United States. And see you all next week.
Shocking you would download the Ubuntu Mate ISO.
I can't help it. I just couldn't resist.
Can somebody put the link in the chat?
Steve.
I just go to cdimages.ubuntu.com.
Yeah, we'll get the daily
That's where I
build releases on there. Yep. Steve, last word.
Thanks again, Rocco. Thanks for the spotlight. Alan, thanks for the plug on your Ubuntu podcast. I want to do a plug for a longtime Linux guy. Joe Collins has joined streaming.
Live streaming, yep.
Yes, tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Plan to check him out. So check him out. He was helpful to me in the beginning. So everybody take care, be safe, and we'll see you soon.
Very nice. Leo, last word, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate that, us and the other Midcast guys. In the next couple of weeks, I guess we'll be diving into Ubuntu 20.04 and Linux Mint 20 when that comes out around June time. So have a listen if you get a chance.
Thank you for being here, Leo. I really appreciate you and the other guys showing up. But I do have to ask you because, I wanted to get one of the guys from Midcast on the Linux Spotlight, and I sent a telegram to the Bearded Wonder, Tony, to see if he wanted to be on. He never answered me, so you want to be on the Linux Spotlight?
When's that going to be?
I
bet I could do that.
We'll pick a date.
Yeah, for sure. I'll absolutely want to do that, for sure.
All right, dig it. Dan, last word.
Yeah, no pressure on the spot there, right?
Right.
Anyway, thanks for the show. As always, this is a great time, great conversations, and enjoyed the week. And look forward to Linux Spotlight. That's going to be an excellent one. So, thanks.
Yep. Jason, last word, brother.
Well, as always, thank you to everybody who puts this show on. Rocco, Dan, Eric, Zeb, and anybody else who helps out in the background is greatly appreciated. Thank you for the Mintcast guys for being here. I do listen to that podcast as well. Also, I do love the Linux Spotlights. Definitely great to be able to learn more about the people in the community. And it's just great to be able to, to see how this channel is going from one page when I first came on here, the 2 pages. Now I think it might even hit 3 pages at one point in time tonight for whatever reason it didn't pick it up right or something. It was 3. On my thing it said 1 out of 3. So regardless, it's I did put in a request with Zoom already to under their feedback tab to up the channel, so we got that going as well. So other than that, everybody have a great night, stay safe, and like Zeb said, look out for others. It's not just about you, it's about those around you. Remind people to be safe, because I have seen some people that definitely need that reminder.
Yep. Paul, last word. I love it. Paul always comes up with some great stuff.
Paul is brilliant.
I love it. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Daniel, last word.
Rocco, thanks for the stream. Eric, Dan, Zeb, Bill, all the guys who work on the show behind the scenes, keep it running smooth. It's great to see it expanding the way that it has over the last few weeks to pick up more folks. Gotta love Scrapjaw jumping back in and giving us the outro music. It's great to have that back. Thanks to the Mint guys for jumping on, Mintcast guys. I've just started queuing up your podcasts. I've listened to a few of them in the past, so I'm gonna get back into listening to that now that I've got all this time to not do much.
Awesome.
Right?
Alan, it's great that the Ubuntu podcast next season has come out, because I missed that one too. There's just so much to listen to. There's just I don't know. There's
too
just so
much
much
to
in
listen
Linux
to.
stuff. There really is. Like, I'm just glad that at my job, even at my job at work, I can just have that stuff going in the background. But yeah, everybody stay safe. Keep your hands washed. Distance, and be smart and help out wherever you can, neighbors, friends, whatever. And we'll weather the storm, but we're gonna have to do it together, just like this community. So that's all I got, and see y'all next week.
Simon, last word, brother.
Thank you very much for the stream, Rocco, and thank you to Eric, Bill, and Zeb, and Dan for assisting. Thank you to everybody else, and stay safe, everybody, and take care of yourselves and each other.
Very nice. Dave.
Thank you, Rocco and crew, for another great stream. I want to thank Clem and all the Mint devs for an incredibly solid and wonderful distro. Thank you to the Mintcast guys for both being here and creating a podcast that is one of my go-to listens when I'm driving. And thank all of you for being the family that I never knew I'd have.
Very nice. Chicken.
Hi there.
What's up?
I'm a lumberjack now, so that's cool. Yeah, no, it's great to be here as always. I always enjoy the talks, and seeing more and more people come in is always exciting and a little scary, because eventually there's just going to be too many of us, and we're going to have like some kind of government. But yeah, no, I appreciate all of you guys. There's always new insights, new exciting things going on, and I feel like we all kind of need a little place to let loose when we're all stuck on our own. So thank you guys.
Very nice.
Too many is never enough.
Nope. I hope it continues to grow. Dave Jones, how are you, sir? Last word.
Rocco, Eric, Zeb, everyone, thanks for having such a great show. This is my first time on. Thanks for being so welcoming about it. Thanks for the Mintcast crew for being on. Thanks, Alan, for having a successful curry, seems like. And everybody stay safe.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming,
anytime, Dave.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thomas, last word.
All right. Well, thank you for having the stream this week, Rocco and Rocco's helpers. I will probably have more time next week to try it out, since I just got a quarantine order taking effect Monday. Fun times. Other than that, yeah, wash your hands, stay home, take care of yourself. Yeah, and thank you to all of our medical workers right now. I know it must be tough.
Colin, last word, brother.
Okay, so I have to say, Eric and Dan and Zeb and Bill, you all helping Rocco. So instead of bringing up the names every week, I'm going to call you Rock and Co. So
was that your last word? Yeah, moving on. Yeah.
Everybody stay safe and have a great week. And thanks for this platform, Rock and Co.
Very nice. Esnix, last word, brother.
Hey, thank you, Rocco and company. Thank you, Colin, for the idea there. That's pretty cool. I never keep the name straight. So my only suggestion is to stop hoarding toilet paper, people. Be safe.
Yeah, please.
Big Pod, last word.
First of all, here in Europe, in the main part of Europe, it's already 4 a.m. and even past that. So it's quite late. Second of all, please, before helping anyone else, help yourself. Make sure you're safe. Make sure you're fine. You're healthy. Because if you help anyone else and you're not healthy, that could be even worse than not helping.
Yep.
And finally, please check me out next week when I'm gonna be streaming. Hopefully it will go just as good, if not better, than the last stream.
Yep. Big Pod had his first live stream yesterday. And yeah, so definitely check out his channel.
it wasn't the first live stream. It was the first live stream which actually had people watching. Others were on Twitch
I stand
playing
corrected.
games, but that time the only people watching was me. So, yeah.
All right, Tony, the bearded wonder, sir. Last word.
Thank you. Thanks for all the guys that make this possible, including you, Rocco. Drat, I missed out. But you've got a great person for the spotlight in Leo. He'll do a great show. And Alan, I've already downloaded the podcast.
Well, you didn't miss out, Tony, because you're going to be on it at some point. You just missed out on the message. That's all.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've been doing a lot of other things just recently, and the social media's got a bit neglected. So, but yeah, great to be here, and I'll be back next week with further update on LMDE4.
Very nice. Scrap Joel, thank you, sir, for the outro music. Last word.
I had to mute. I have wild children at home. And they were causing trouble. So I guess I'm just playing the stay-at-home blues for everybody tonight.
I feel like I should lower my voice a little when I'm listening to that music, Scrap.
I think you should too.
All right, Rick, last word, brother.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me back on. It's great to see this growing so much. That's the really exciting thing, and to see what's happening with the work that you and the team are doing. Rocco is fantastic. Come and join us in the Ubuntu testing week. You know, get involved, whether you contribute a tiny little bit in the community or a lot, and it doesn't matter about the frequency, whether you do it once a month, once a day, once a week. You're not what's the word I'm looking for? You're not encumbered by that. You're not, you know, it's a voluntary gig, right? So so whatever you put in is greatly appreciated. So come and get involved. And my final thing is that go and try out Ubuntu 2004. I think you're going to like it. It looks beautiful.
Hey, plasma in the house.
Right? All right, Chris, last word.
There we go. Got back to my push to talk button there. Hey, glad to see everybody's staying healthy, at least as far as we can tell, and everything is rocking and rolling around here. And the just want to say thanks from live from Windsor, Connecticut, the Vintage Radio and Communications Museum. We're not open to the public, but we still, have some daily operations and wipe downs and stuff to take care of. And so everybody stay safe and hope to see you next week.
All right, that's going to wrap it up. My last word is I want to thank Linux Mint, the devs, Clem, and everybody else for all of the work that they put into it. They put in a lot of effort for a solid distro, and I don't believe that Linux Mint Debian Edition is any different. So I appreciate that. I appreciate every one of you being here, because without you guys being here, I'd be talking to myself, and that would be boring. So again, check out Linux Spotlight with Mark Shuttleworth on Wednesday at 6 a.m. And we will still continue to test the Debian edition of Linux Mint, but please don't forget to also test out the for testing week starting April 2nd. Other than that, we will see you next week. But until then, long live Linux.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Safe.
Bye. See you in the morning.
Bye-bye.
This morning for Big Bud.